Can an individual do only one thing at a time? I used to think that until I read the fictional book A Slice of Life. At the back page of it gave me a short note about our today's guest, Miss Smita Das Jain.
Hi, I am Smita and I am a writer by passion. I write something every day. A Slice of Life was my first book, which got published in 2021. And ever since then, as I mentioned, every day I've been writing something or the other. I write both fiction and non fiction. A Price to Love was my novel that came out in 2022. And Twisted Tales and Turns, A Journey Through the Unexpected, was another short story collection that came out last year. And I'm expecting my fourth one should be out this year soon. The publishing is in queue, which is again a novel. Um, Outside the world of writing, I am an executive coach and personal empowerment life coach, helping people get better at what they do. A two-time TEDx speaker. I take seminars and conferences, and I write a lot of blogs. And by education, I'm an MBA from IIM Indore and a BCom honors from SRCC Delhi University. Been based in Gurgaon for the last 18 years now, where I stay with my husband and daughter.
That's great to hear. And I think you're a perfect candidate for our podcast, Common Man with Special Views. क्योंकि आपने इतना कुछ करा हुआ है अपनी लाइफ में, but again, you're just like a common man with us. And I think from this our podcast, I will surely be able to unpack your journey and how has it been, and like get to know more you at a personal level. And I also have few questions about your book, so that I think we can I can ask during the podcast, and then you can also tell your artistic intention behind the book with a slice of life, like every short story in it. What was the intention behind it?
Sure.
So
Do you want me to speak about the book generally, or you have a specific question for me, Vardhan?
no, I'll just start from like I'll start starting from the starting of your career. So first, I'd like to ask you, how was SRCC college life at that time compared to now? Like, has it changed, or what do you think about it?
I am sure it would have changed. How is the college life now? I think I also need to ask some of the students now. Uh, what hasn't changed is the high cutoffs. Even back in those days, the cutoffs were like 95 to 100%. And now, of course, it's like closer to 100 than 95. Admissions were equally tough. Uh, SRCC, once you get in, you realize the campus was so rich and vibrant. There were a lot of extracurricular activities like dramatics and cultural activities. Most of the time, most students were in cafeteria rather than the lectures. First year was when students were at their most serious. By the time we went to the second year and third year, it was more like, okay, we have understood everything. Let's spend more time at the cafeteria and doing extracurricular activities. Final year, anyway, we didn't used to attend most classes because most of us were busy in preparing for some entrance exams.
Oh,
So like I did MBA, so we were preparing for CAT. There were people who were most of the people were doing their CAs anyway, so they used to prepare for that. So the focus was a lot on entrance exam. We used to. I didn't take any coaching for CAT, but most students did take up coaching for whatever entrance they were preparing. So campus life was good, but like most colleges, very little time was spent inside the classrooms. Like, of course, cafeteria,
yeah.
yes, the other environs, yes. Connecting with our teachers, lecturers, yes. Some of the lecturers were really, really superb. And in fact, there was an alumni meeting just last month.
Oh,
And when I went, we realized that, some of the professors still remember us by face. Like, I'm talking about way back. So I studied there from 2002 to 2005. And for some of the professors to remember the face, of course, they won't
they
remember the
remember
name,
you
but
like you.
recognizing
This
my
was
face.
Smita. They remember like your name also.
No, no, the
Oh,
face. Of
oh,
course, they won't remember. I don't expect them to remember the name, but they would recognize. Oh, yes, you were in my lecture. You were in my class. I'm like, yes.
Did they
Okay,
say
so
like,
that's
is
amazing.
she the one who never used to come? Yeah, they do like that thing.
No, no, I was one of the most diligent and sincere
Oh,
student. I used to attend most classes, even in final year, because as I said, I didn't take any coaching and all. So by the time you went in final year, there were very few students who attended classes anyway. So if you were among the one who attend classes, professors will anyway remember you for that reason. So that's the thing. Yeah, I think in a way I missed out. In campus, sometimes I just wish that I would have participated more in extracurrics rather than focusing on just academics. I did, but by the time I reached my final year, the focus was on placements, on doing MBA, when thinking about career. And now that I'm at this stage in my career, I'm like, okay, all of that doesn't matter. We should have enjoyed college life more. That's how it is.
that makes sense. But if you wouldn't have focused on your academics that much, you wouldn't have got into IIM Indore, which is like very highly reputable college for MBA.
Oh yes, there is pros and cons of everything. So I don't know whether I would have got into or not if I would not have focused that much. But yes, the point is because I focused that much, I eventually got into it. So
Mhm.
no regrets as such, because that time, yeah, the focus was purely on
But you were
getting into an
satisfied.
good MBA college.
But you were satisfied with your decision because you finally got into. I guess IIM was having your dream college.
See, honestly, SRCC was my dream. Ever since
Oh,
I took up commerce from class 11th, I was like, okay, this is the number one college in commerce. I
yeah.
had to get there. So, ever since I cleared my 10th and chose 11th, I was like very, very clear. This is the number one college. I have to get there. And I knew the cutoffs. So, my
Oh,
focus was always on clearing the cutoffs. I worked very, very hard from SRCC to IM, I was again very clear that I was clear I had to do MBA, and I was
oh.
clear I had to study in an IIM. So I didn't even apply to colleges, outside IIM. Now what happened that uh, the CAT, I got call only from IIM Indore, and of- my thought process was okay. Let me go through the GD and interview to get an idea about the process. I was anyway thinking that I will again sit for CAT next year and go to Ahmedabad and all, not expecting that I'll clear the GD and interview because back then I was like, very quiet and shy, and I didn't think of myself as someone who will clear the GDs and all.
Oh,
So I'm like, let me go through the process so that I know, and next year I'll be better prepared. And I also had secured a placement through SRCC placement cell in a good company. So my focus was that for 2 years I will work in that company, and then I will again sit
so
for
you had
CAT and
backup
this will
options in already. Like you are like either Yale,
yes.
this, that, and all.
Huh. Huh. But yeah, the backup was actually taking MBA later. But then I happened to clear GD and interview of IIM Indore. And then, of course, like my parents were like, if you have cleared it once, why wait for 2 years? In the long run, it won't matter whether you do it from Ahmedabad or Indore. Plus, Mau was my birthplace. So my dad was in the
Oh,
Indian Army. So I was born in Mau, which is like half an hour from Indore. So my father was like, okay, it was destined to be. You were born there, and now see, you have to gotten through MBA there, so don't miss out. So it was more because of my parents that I went to Indore. Otherwise, my mind was like, okay, I will, give a second attempt to catch.
your life is also fictional story. Like see, like you were born there because you were supposed to go to that college only. Like entire drama.
See, fiction always has some genesis in real life, and truth is stranger than fiction. That is
Uh-huh.
something, as a writer, I have always seen. No matter how much we imagine, truth will always trump fiction. So,
Uh, so, as a writer, I would like to ask you now, what do you think? From where does imagination come? Like, what ignites imagination? Is it the reality? or is it the non-reality, like the fictional world which a person creates, like what he dreams? So, like, from where does this imagination generate, which is used in fictional books?
So it's a mix of reality and your sense. I would say more than reality, it's actually your sensory experiences. So sensory experiences is whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever you read, whatever you observe. Okay. Now reality has a very big role to play into this. For example, if I am writing anything, be it a short story or a novel, I need to have a setting. Okay, either it's a real setting, like for example my novel A Price to Love, it is based in Gurugram,
Oh,
and it is
okay.
based in corporate world. That is because, and I, for my first novel, I took a setting which I was familiar with. So Gurgaon is a town I'm familiar with, corporate world is
Even
a
I am very
setting I'm
familiar with that
familiar
town.
with. I worked for 14 years, right? So that helps. Even if you take like a dystopian world, a science fiction, there will be still some basis you will start from reality, right? So fiction is nothing like you see one person, you have read something somewhere, you observe something while traveling in a metro, maybe you're going on a vacation, there are some experiences that stays, and then you think about a story, a plot or characters, and all those experiences come to you, and you blend all those experiences to produce an experience of your own. So
Oh,
that fictional experience is original, but then there are so many influences. See, some influence will be there from real life. I'm not even saying that everything is like what you see, everything is what you even let's say observe black and white. There are so many things that shape you, like in Slice of Life only, there is a story about a tulsi plant. I've forgotten the name of the story, but maybe I just open that book and refer to the story. So, yeah, this is the book, A Slice of Life, which you have read and talking about. Yes, so. Parched, the second story in the book. So you have read the book recently. You remember Parch is about a tulsi plant where that lady waits for her husband, and then initially the tulsi plant was dry, and then when the husband is coming back, the tulsi plant is all
yeah.
it's in full bloom and all. So the inspiration for that story actually came from the tulsi plant in my terrace garden.
Oh,
So I was like, okay, I have to write something. What do I write? And then I saw the shrunk of Tulsi plant. That time it was hot summer, 3 years ago, when I penned that story. And then that became an inspiration. Okay, saw the Tulsi plant. I started writing about the Tulsi plant. And then the lady evolved, the husband evolved, the setting evolved, the family evolved, right?
but
So
whatever
that
that
is
got
how it.
evolved was your thinking and what you believe. Like, suppose I get what you're trying to say. Now I'll try to say. So you got your Tulsi flower as a stimulus for your entire short story. Now, when you started writing the character setting, it was all dependent on what you presumed the knowledge as, like what you think the
Yes.
family is and all. So now that's why now I get it why we as Indians connect more with Indian readers, Indian authors than other international authors, because we are related to them. We have same type of thinking.
Yes, that is right. Having said that, this connection, I know many of my reader friends who prefer foreign authors only
Oh.
because they are of the view that, which I think is unjustified because I'm an Indian writer myself. But many readers are of the view that Indians don't write well, and I don't agree with it at all. We write as well.
Rabindranath
But
Tagore and
yeah,
all those classicals.
yes, see, everyone has their own preferences. So, but yes, I also agree that, see, if I were to target a foreign audience, for now, I think I'm not ready because I don't know a foreign setting as well.
Yeah.
Whatever I write in India, I know this country well, right? I know the setting well, I know the culture well. So, whatever comes out will be very organic, very genuine, very authentic. Whereas whatever will come out from any land abroad, I have been there, but it is short like vacations,
That is secondary
not
research
really.
only, like not audition. Like how you live in Bombay, Bombay's like, and how was Delhi wala like, Bombay is only about South Bombay, but we don't know what the actual Bombay is like because we have not lived there, na.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. For me, it's a limitation. If I have not lived somewhere enough to immerse myself in a culture, I will not be comfortable. Maybe a short story, still, yes, but definitely not a novel. So that's what it is. The genesis is all around you. Like right now, we are having this conversation. You never know. I may base my next story on a conversation that someone had with a podcast host, and then turned out the host was actually not a human being. You never know.
I really
That's
want to read
how.
that.
Let's see. Maybe next time.
Sure, sure. So I'm really fascinated by this, like how what you and what other authors also what they write is always what they feel. Like as we explained, like how it happens. So I was like, why did you want to do short stories? Like, what's so special about short stories? Like, why did you choose short stories as this? You could have expanded on
Okay.
these stories so much. Like, I remember there was this letter story. If you, I don't know,
Yes.
that where the
Forever love.
husband was messaging till the end when the wife had died.
Yes.
So like I
Forever
love
love.
that story, and you could have expanded to a very big novel also. But why only short story to that story?
Okay, see, A Slice of Life was my first book. So the thing is, I was a new author at that time. So my thought process, a novel is an investment. As
Yeah.
a reader, and I'm a very voracious reader, novels, I myself pick only those authors who I know.
Oh.
I mean, not necessarily that I'm reading them, but either, like, for example, Jeffrey Archer, Chetan Bhagat, their books come and I buy them. Sometimes I even pre-order them, right? And then there comes something like, The Silent Patient, where that time the author was unknown, but the reviews were so much and everyone was talking about it, so I had to buy it. Because a novel is a thick book, it takes time. So I know as a reader, there needs to be a compelling reason for me to pick up a new writer. So, and I thought about it the same way as I went about it, that why would a reader invest his time to read a new writer like me? So that is why I thought it is best to start with short stories. So when I started writing 3 years ago, I thought I used to write well, but the validation comes from the readers. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it is very difficult for readers to pick up a novel of a new writer. So best is start with the short story collection. See whether readers are accepting you. See what they have to say about your writing style. And if the feedback was favorable, continue writing. If it's not, so had a slice of life not worked, maybe that would have been the only book I had written. So that is the reason, like why the slice of life first, why short
It's a short
stories?
story.
Because I didn't want to start my first book as a novel because of the reason I told you. Now, why short stories? See, a novel takes a lot of time. A short story also, you have to engage the reader, but the span is less, so
Yeah.
you don't take as much time. And you can experiment so much, you can mix and match genres, you don't have to go into so much detail. I think it's very see, in a novel you can go into as much detail, there is a very immersive setting, there is a space. So if it's a good one, it's very easy to immerse the reader. Contrastingly, short story, because the space is less, you can't be as immersive. So, as a writer, it really challenges you. Plus, the thing is, because it does not take as much time, you can really develop a writing portfolio. Like for me, 3 years ago when I started, I was very clear that as a writer, if I have to evolve, I have to write something every day. So since April 2021, I think I've been writing something every day without fail. Be it sun, hail, rain, vacation, sickness, anything, I've been writing something every day. And that was my way to improve. Now, if you're writing something every day, it can't be a novel. Short story that way becomes much more convenient. Okay, I mean, if I want, I can write 500 words. If I want, I can write 5,000 words. There are different forms, and I have experimented with so many genres. So one, it helps you to learn, it helps you to grow, it is a very good writing practice. And then, you know it's very easy to share it and get feedback about your writing style. For readers, it isn't as much an investment. Okay, so for example, you picked up a slice of life, you finished it in one setting. It's a thin book, right? 18 stories, but still like 100 pages. It didn't take much of your time. And you thought the book was good, that's why you are having me here,
Yeah,
right? So it gave you a quick flavor. Now because you have read my A Slice of Life, maybe you would be willing to pick up my next books or the one that is
yeah.
coming now, right? So that is the advantage of short stories. As a writer, you get to experiment. As a new writer especially, it is easier for you to get new readers to sample your writing vis-a-vis if you start with a novel.
As a reader also, what I really liked about your book was you had given an index about all the short stories, and I found few boring and this theme boring. So I was like, I was easily able to shift to different pages, like graduation day. I am a high school student, of course. I am thinking about the graduation moment. So the first one which I read opening the book was graduation day one also. And when I liked that, then I started reading everything from start. So I think short stories really help us to travel through pages and like read the one which interests you the most.
Yes, exactly. That's a very important point you said, Vardhan. Like you said, you don't have to go in a serial order,
Yeah,
right? You looked at the chapter's name, whatever stuck you, you read that. And my way, the way in books, I also categorize. So I give the themes. Even my Twisted Tales and Turns is like that. I give the themes upfront so it becomes easier. uh, that space isn't available in a novel. You can't
yeah.
just decide that I will start from page 50 and then I will go to page
If you
100.
skip
You
one
have to
page,
go very
you
serious
forgot the one entire plot twist.
Exactly. So that's an advantage. I think it's a very underrated format. Abroad, I think there is still some appreciation. But in India, I think short stories don't get their due. There is a lot of potential, but somewhere, there's this notion amongst publishing houses, not amongst readers. But publishers do think that, novel has more potential than short stories. And I really don't understand why, because today the attention span of everyone is short.
Hmm.
So they would like to sample it little by little, bite by bite, rather than invest their time in a thick book. Somewhere, I don't know, there is a gap. I really think short stories have a lot of potential which hasn't been explored in India.
But you, as a person, like not thinking commercially, but as a writer, what do you feel? What's more interesting to you, to write a short story or a novel? Like, what do you think is better? Like, what do you choose without any other external factor that selling it or commercially should be success? Like, what you would want in an ideal world? What you would want to write?
Okay, so that's a difficult question. See, I love writing short stories, honestly, because there is no pressure. You can write as many or as little. And right now, I still count myself as a learning writer, even after on three books down, fourth book almost around the corner. But still, it gives short stories give me room for experiment. However, if let's say I were to write only one format, let's say if that was the choice in a world, if there was a constraint, then I think, with my heart in my mouth, I think I will pick up a novel.
Uh,
The reason is that, see, short story, there are a lot of short stories. Like, for example, you read A Slice of Life. You've got a flavor of me. You know some stories you like, some stories maybe you didn't like that much, but short stories gives you more of a flavor of a writer. But there is no one protagonist you identified with.
yeah,
Why? Because there are a
I
lot of
don't remember any
protagonists.
protagonist of the short story. Like I read it once.
Exactly.
I don't remember anyone. Like I
Huh.
just remember the stories
Exactly.
on the page.
Yes, you remember the stories, but no protagonist. In a novel, it's the other way around. I mean,
Yeah,
of course, the plot has to be good, but you will remember the characters. And for
agreed.
you to connect with the readers, the characters need to speak. For example, you go and watch a movie. If you relate with the hero and the heroine, then only you will like the movie, right? That's why there are a lot of movies coming which are only full of action, but you don't know why the characters are doing what they are doing,
Yeah.
and you don't really feel like watching, right? Those sort of movies won't work. Similarly, I do think for a writer to connect more deeply with the readers, the protagonist have to speak. And the short story, because of its very nature, anyway, people consume it for short term consumption. So if the story is great, they will remember, oh, there was a writer who wrote this good story. This was how the ending was. Like,
Yeah,
there
even
is
I
a reason you
remembered like
found
that
the
only.
story good. Huh. Like, for example, the letters. Like the husband was writing till the
Yes, yes.
end, even when the wife was dead. The story was forever love. But do you remember the name of the husband and wife and the characters?
I
That
will
is what
remember.
happens
Yeah,
with. Huh.
it's just like I
Exactly.
forgot the protagonist. I'm just trying to think, but I can't.
Huh. So that is what happens with short stories. So I think if given a choice, I will, if I could do only one because of some constraint, I think I will pick up a novel because of this reason. Because if I pick short stories, I will lose that medium to connect more deeply with the
Yeah,
readers.
the intent of this medium is to connect with the audience. What I think the writers they try
Yes.
through their diction, through their syntax, they connect with the author, with the audience. Sorry. So if you are, I think novel will be much more a better way to do that. So I
Yes. So
understand your
that
choice.
is the thing.
And then I would like to ask now, like, what's the process of writing a fictional book? Like, how do you like? You told the inspiration and how it comes, but when you have the idea, but what do you do to write the first word? Like, how do you bring that motivate? Like, because even I want to write a book, but ever since past 3 years, I have so many stories, but I don't know how to just start writing. Like, I don't know how do we like. You are an author, you must know because you say you also were learning at that time. So, what did you do which motivated you, like, to actually do something?
Okay, so Vardhan, every person has their own process. My answer is going to be very unconventional here. Whenever someone asks me this question, my answer is uniform, but I know it's unconventional. See, I am a very spontaneous writer. Some
Oh,
people plot and plan everything. I don't. Because I think if I start plotting and planning, the story, I will just fall into the nitty gritty of details and I will think this is not perfect, that is not perfect, and I will leave something midway, maybe not start at all. So what I do when I'm starting something afresh, my thing is simple. Every morning I get up at 5 a.m. I open the laptop, the very same laptop from which I'm talking to you, and then I open a Word document and I start typing. If it's a new, fresh story, I write whatever comes into my mind. If I can't think of anything, I look here and there, like I told you how I wrote Parched, right? I just looked here and there. I saw the dried of Tulsi plant on my terrace, and I am seeing a lot of dried plants now also. It's like very hot summer. And then I'm like, okay, chalo, let me start my story with this. And then, when I type the first sentence, it is as if automatically my fingers start twirling away and I spin up something, characters start talking on my head. This is something that happens. So this is how I literally start, without plotting, without planning, even in a novel. So when I wrote the first draft of A Price to Love, my thought process was I have to finish the first draft in 1 month. So the novel was planned to be a 50,000 words. So I divided it into 50,000 divided by 30. So I was writing almost 2,500 to 3,000 words every day. And I was like, I have to finish 3,000 words every day. And I used to open my laptop, type something, type something, type something. The moment the word count used to show 2667, I'm like, okay, done. And then next day again, the process started. And this is literally how all my first drafts are written. And that is why, my writer friends ask me, how come you come up with a book every year and how come you write so much and so fast with your busy schedule? Because I have a full-fledged professional career which is not writing. So I am like, because I write something every day. So if you are opening a Word document or you're opening your diary to pen something, even if you're sitting for half an hour, you will end up penning something. And I spend a good 1.5 to 2 hours every day writing. So this is how it is. Once I began the story, of course there is a middle, then I realize, okay, the story is forming like this, let me make this character
But
this
at
way, or
least you
let
have the
me.
first draft with you now. Like at least something comes with you because of that spontaneous thing.
But the first draft is coming very spontaneously. I don't plan. It is only when like a Price to Love, a novel. So this is the book I'm talking about. Okay, a Price to Love. The first draft of this was written before I wrote a single story of a slice of life.
Oh,
So this the first draft was of this was written before, but I decided to come up with a short story book first. So the first draft, I told you, 30 days flat, 3,000 words per day, done, done, done. It was very spontaneous, no plotting, no planning. It is when I picked up the first draft, that is when I planned, okay, this character has to go, this character has to tweak, the plot has to go this way, the format has to go this way. So between the first draft, so this the book that has got published, that would be my fifth or sixth draft.
oh. So
So
within
that is
six
how it
drafts, you
evolves.
are able to finalize your book. Like that's like I've heard people who do like 99 drafts, 80 drafts, 70 drafts. But
I don't know. I don't have that patience. See, there is always a room for improvement. Jeffrey Archer, an author I admire, I think, and he handwrites. I don't know how he
oh,
manages, but he writes at least 20 drafts. Huh, he handwritten. He doesn't type. He writes by hand. So I don't know how he manages. See, everyone has their own
yeah, as you
process.
said, everyone
But
has their own.
some people send the second draft for publication. So there is no right or wrong here. Every person is different.
Yeah.
But for me, 4 to 5 drafts is a sweet spot. My process is, let me not think too much. Let me have the first draft. And that is the same for a short story and a novel, because it's important to have the rough draft out. Once you have the stone, you can polish it in any way to form a diamond. But if you don't have a stone, there will be no diamond. So
That
that is
makes sense.
something you said. You said that you want to write. I'm like, don't think, just cull out that first draft, whatever comes to your mind. After that, you will have enough time to polish it, to make it beautiful, to delete something, to add something. But without a foundation, there will be no building.
Hmm. पहली कहते हैं like पे नारियल तो तोड़ना पड़ेगा ही.
Exactly.
So now I'll come on the capitalism side of the world. Now I want to ask you, what do you think about the reading industry now? Like I'll start with the bookshop. So you are saying like how Amazon has destroyed the entire bookshop culture. Like at your time in your college life, there must be a culture. People used to go to bookstores, read the first
Libraries.
pages, yeah, libraries and all, and then issue the books or buy those books. But now it's all like coming online, and then like this entire bookstore culture has died. So what's your views on that?
Okay, see, there are all sorts of people. There is this new generation. For example, even if I say about my home, my husband has now shifted mostly to audiobooks. It really has to be a
Cuckoo
good
FM.
book for him to buy the paperback, otherwise, he listens to audio, right? But I can't think about listening to a book. For me, the book is reading. And if I really like a book, like I don't think I have ever read a Jeffrey Archer or a Chetan Bhagat on a Kindle. I
Oh,
have read books on Kindle, but not of my favorite authors. Now, the thing is, I want a book at convenience. If it's an author I know, Amazon is convenient, okay? You go, you order, it gets delivered to your home. Having said that, if I go to a mall and that mall has a bookstore, I do make it a point to visit. And then I look at different covers, I look at the blurbs. If something catches my eye, I really end up buying them. So the thing is, of course, Amazon has, see, the only constant in life is change, right? So Amazon has come, and before Amazon there was Flipkart. Actually, Flipkart was the site which pioneered the selling of books and all. Now, of course, Amazon, in terms of selling books, it has overcome Flipkart. The thing is, I do believe that if you want to get a book of your favorite author and writer, it's very easy to go to an Amazon and Flipkart and order. For
Pre-ordering, as
me,
you said.
like I told you, I don't think twice. Jeffrey Archer's book has come, I have to order it, right? But bookstores are still the avenue for readers to sample new writers. See, you like for me, okay, now I am not new, but I am still not a Chetan Bhagat or a Jeffrey Archer.
Yeah.
So if a reader has to like sample my work, there is a lot more chance of him or her coming across my book in a bookstore, liking the cover, picking it up, and maybe then, quickly cross check Amazon, okay, what are the reviews, and then decide to buy it, right? uh, I would say new writers, emerging writers, writers who are not so famous, it makes sense to for them to cultivate that relationship with the bookstores. And bookstores do have a place for writers. It is still a place you will go for browsing. Of course, people don't go purely to bookstores. For
They just
example,
go for
there are,
browsing, but not for buying. What I have heard, like they go to a
no,
bookstore.
no, no. If you like a book cover, you read the blurb, if it catches your attention, you end up buying. So here it is, the capability of the author and the publisher,
No,
how attractive the cover is, how good a blurb is, but people will buy. If they like something, they browse. Okay. See, for me, if a reader does not know me, he will not go to Amazon to search my book.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm at a really at a disadvantage. But if he goes to a bookstore,
He
he
likes your
sees a
cover.
lot of books and something catches his attention, he will read the blurb, and if he likes it, there is a lot higher chances of him buying that because he's in a bookstore surrounded by books, so you get that feeling also. Okay,
Yeah,
let me buy
the
some.
smell in the bookstore, like that aroma, that's so good. I don't know what is that, but like when you go step into any bookstore, there's something in the air. Like I don't know what is it, but there's something in the air.
Exactly. Hmm. So bookstores have to evolve. Like in Gurgaon, there are quite a lot of bookstores which are cafe stores. So
Oh,
it's not only a place for reading, buying books. You can sit there, you can browse through books, you order a snack, you order tea, you spend some time reading. There are a lot of those bookstores call authors. So there are reading sessions. So they are cultivating, they are promoting the culture of reading and writing. So, bookstores also have to evolve with the times. They do have their place. For us writers, they do have a utility. But if they continue to act in the same way like they did in the pre Amazon and Flipkart era, then they will get extinct, which
yeah.
is what is happening. Those bookstores that have evolved, they are still doing well.
So that was great to hear your take on like what's the current state of the bookstores and like how some have evolved and some have not. So now I would like to jump back to your personal life and I would like to ask how did you make the jump from like being in the corporate world and being in those corporate like 9 to 5s, and then what made you believe that you want to read right now, because as you say you have just started writing in like past 3 to 4 years. So what was that instinct?
Three.
Yeah, what was that story? Like, I want to know the story. कि now कि अब मैंने लिखना शुरू करना है.
Okay, so uh, ये स्टोरी बहुत पहले जाती है, if I had to use a cliche. So my father, long ago when I was a kid, he was a voracious reader, so he introduced me to the world of books. And as I started reading, I started writing. In fact, I think I wrote an article when I was like 8 years old, which was a ghost written article. So I wrote it for my brother in a school magazine. And for 3 days, once it got published in the magazine, for 3 days he became a sensation in his school because the article was so good.
What
So
was it
after
about?
that, okay. So that time, uh, there were these serials, the mythological serials that was starting, like Ramayana Mahabharat era was off, and then there was this era of Krishna and all that, and the cable television was coming. So it was how, like, he wanting to watch something, but the remote was always in the hands of me or my mother. So it was an article on that, how like he wants to watch TV, but he has to watch what his mother and sister
But
had to
at the
watch.
age of 8, you wrote this.
Oh, yes. Maybe I was 9. I don't remember the exact age, but yes, it was like
But the
around
topic
that time.
sounds so intellectual type, like like something which a teenager won't even write. Like it sounds very like very intellectual, high intellectual level, like criticism, opinion, editorial type.
And it was written in a very humorous way.
Oh, oh.
So while the topic may sound, I mean, the takeaway was also intellectual, but it was written in a very like a child will write
Yeah,
it. Because
from
of
his
course I
point
was a
of view,
child.
na like TV Milnira,
Yeah.
all that.
Ha, exactly. So it was from a kid's point of view. And from there on, because the article was well received, I kept on writing something on and off. I anyway used to read. I remember I was so influenced by Nancy Drew. I wrote my own detective story in a book, in a register, and lost that register because my dad was in the
Oh,
army, so he used to shift a lot. So, somewhere it got
yeah.
lost. So I kept on writing something or the other creatively. In class 12th, I was also the chief editor of my school magazine. My English was always good, and I always was very fond of literature. Even SRCC, for that matter, I wrote an article which was like very, very well received. For a time, I was involved with the college magazine in SRCC. That was during my first year. And then, after that, somewhere the worlds of profit and loss account and balance sheets took precedence. And then also I wrote, but it was more about reports, presentation, those
I don't know
business
why do
writing.
I feel like this is gonna be my future, because like I can feel like this is going to happen with me also, because even I am targeting for commerce, but in international, like abroad, like Colombia. So like this is gonna happen with me also now.
It happens with everyone, okay? That time you want to make a career and all this seems like a waste of time. It's not, but at that stage it will seem like, even you will feel it like that. That's the nature. And then, creative writing took a backseat. So ever since, like, let's say my final year at SRCC, then I am in the, or after that I worked in the corporate world. It was all like business reports, business presentations. It was all those pure play business writing. And then somewhere, around 2017, 2018, I would have worked in the corporate world for 11, more than a decade, I think 11, 12 years. I began to feel very restless. See, when you start your career, earning money is important.
Yeah.
You want to earn money, you want to be stable, you want to earn enough to provide for your family, you want to go on nice foreign vacations, able to afford it easily, you want to buy your own home. These are the priorities when you start your career. After a decade or more, you have achieved all this. Okay, your career is stable. You also have good savings. So money is no longer the driver. The factors that influence you in your 20s, most of them become redundant in your 30s. So that is when, either you enjoy your work, so work does not feel like work. So you're working because you love working, not because you want to earn money. So I had reached a stage where I had enough money and I was not enjoying the work. This is not anything against the corporate world. I am what I am today because I did my MBA from IIM Indore and because I worked in all those wonderful companies that I did. However, that was not me intrinsically. So I was questioning myself, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Do I want to make PPTs for the rest of my life? And I didn't want to do it. The answer was a clear no. And then I started asking myself, okay, what do I do? What else can I do? And then I remembered, oh, once upon a time, and not too long ago also, I used to write. And that is when, so I enrolled in some creative writing courses in Stanford. It was online through Zoom. And I'm talking of 2018 pre-COVID era. Nobody had heard of Zoom at that time.
Oh, even I.
So, and you said corporate world is 9 to 5. No, I was working 9 to 8 at least for most of the days and most of the weekends also. So, weekends were probably not 9 to 8, but yes, most of the weekends was working.
That's the
So
unofficial part of the corporate world, which they don't tell.
I'm not worried. This is how it is. Everybody knows that. I'm not saying it's bad. It makes you who you are. But the thing is, so what was happening most of the day, I was like working, and it was a lot of work. Then 2 a.m., you call it late at night or you call it early in the morning. I was there in Stanford, uh, learning what creative writing is all about. But the good part was those courses had writers all over the world, and the way they teach abroad is very different from how they teach in India. So my mind got exposed so much. It was not that they will tell you the theory and they will explain. They will straight away give you that, okay, this is a prompt, you write some piece, and then you
Yeah.
write, and then they tell the theory, and then there is peer feedback and all. So, I experimented with a lot of genres because the nature of the course was such, and then I got feedback and I developed on it some more. And that is how I rekindled my love affair with writing, I would say. So, from 2018 till 2021, I was like, writing some pieces here and there, circulating it amongst my close friends. And quite a few of them came and told me these are so good. It does not feel like it's being written by somebody who is just starting to write. You should think about publishing it. And then there was particularly this one story, The Lost Identity. It's set up in a foreign setup and all. Somebody really told me you should think about publishing this is too good. This was sometime in 2021 January, and that time, okay, then I looked up, okay, let me see how to publish. And then I came across Amazon KDP, and I'm like, okay, I read about Amazon KDP. I'm like, it does not look that difficult.
Yeah,
And so
like
I uploaded that story in KDP, and then in 2 hours I was published. Like, it's an ebook. That was actually my first ebook, The Lost Identity. It's a short story only. I mean, not even a short story collection, it's a short story. And then I got such good reviews for that. I mean, of course, not many people read it. At that time, it was not marketing, it was more about this thing. But I got received such good feedback. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to write consistently and I'm going to write proper books, and I'm going to see whether people accept me as a writer or not.
so
And
a
that's
slice
how
of
the
life.
journey. And then came a slide. So I told you I wrote the first draft of A Price to Love. That first draft was written as part of my course in Stanford. So I
Oh,
enrolled in two courses in Stanford. First one was creative writing. Second is how to write a novel in 30 days. So they actually, I mean, it was like just write, decide on a word count, write so many words these days, and by 30 days you will have a first draft. So that is when I had written the first draft of A Price to Love. But then, I was writing short stories, and then when I decided to become a writer, because of the analysis I did, I thought it is best that I start with a short story. And that's when I wrote all these stories for A Slice of Life and came out with that book.
and then that's how we got our today's guest.
Yes, you can say
So
that.
you also said that your father was in part of army. So I would like to ask some cliche questions, which I have, which I like. Is it true that people who live in army they keep shifting, and it's very difficult for the kids to settle in like the new school, new area every time?
Yes, army people mostly keep shifting in. Like, see, it's a choice. Like, my
Oh,
mother was shifting with my father for most of the time until like I got into class 10th. So, for those board classes, she didn't shift, but otherwise, we were shifting before that. Uh, some army wives decide that the education is important. Like, if you see today's wife, most of them after primary school, sometimes some people from primary classes itself settle in one location because they don't want to disrupt the studies of their children. I do think, when I was a child, we were much more resilient than children of today's generation. They are very, very, protected, I would say. I would not say, see, shifting and all, we got used to it. I mean, in fact, it was like a new experience. How come it's been 3 years we are in the same place? What was difficult was maintaining relationships.
hmm.
That time there were no mobile phones. Now it may not be difficult because you have smartphones, you have those Gmails and all. But in that era, no Gmail, no internet, no email, no mobile phone. So, it was very difficult to make friends. As in, you made friends, and then 2 years later,
Maintaining them.
sometimes even a year later, you are shifting. So, you have to make new friends again. So, there is no permanent relationship. Like, there are hardly any school friends I am in touch with. And because the reason is, I hardly can even remember anyone because, every second year it was a different school. So, it's more about friendships. I don't
But
think
then
shifting
you
and settling.
but then you have the college alumni connects, and like you have all of them now because
Huh.
college is there with them.
Huh. Yeah, so that's what, no, you stay. So graduation, 3 year or 4 year, depending on your course, you are in one place, and then I am again for 2 years. You are in one place. So that is how the relationship evolved. I am saying maybe had I been a civilian kid, there would have
Civilian.
been more such relationships.
But like this your personality that shaped you, like you got, like as you said, one thing which is constant in life is change. And I think like from this interview so far, I think like you are very, like you easily you are easily able to like express, like easily, how will I say, like you are not that much affected by change, I would say. Like so far as I have, like you're easily able to like adapt yourself, your personality, and like with your environment as per the change. Or
It
is it?
depends what are the sort of changes. See, I wanted to change my career, so it was like I wanted to change it. Let me change and try. But when it comes to daily routine, I would like to plan my day. So, for
Oh.
example, if there is a call at 3, and if it does not begin at 3, or somebody were to cancel it at last minute, I am the person who does not like it. How come a planned thing hasn't happened? So, I mean,
I
maybe
got
it's a
saved.
contradiction. So that's why at least good I was connecting over Instagram. But anyways, the thing is, I get hassled whenever there is a change in planned thing. Okay, like somebody has said they will call at that time, and it's 5 minutes gone, they haven't called at that time. Or a meeting is supposed to happen and somebody cancels at the last minute. Those are the things that get me irritated. uh, like this career change also to writing, I actually left the corporate world and started two new things at the same time, writing, and I also become a coach. So I embarked on two new careers at the same time. So it took some planning. It's not that I decided today and then, tomorrow I was doing the other things. I took time
Man.
that this is how I'll go about it. Right. So that way, I prepared for that change once I made up my mind.
But I think as a corporate person, you are like, your personality has become that one. Like, you will plan, this will happen, so this will happen. Like, like a business report. So, like, you are planning your entire life like that. So if I shift this career, this is a possible chances I can do all of this. This is possible growth and all that stuff.
I don't know about corporate and all. There are many friends I have from the corporate world who are not as organized or not as
Uh-huh.
well planned. I think by nature I am a well planned person. So even when we go on vacations, my husband leaves all the planning to me. That you decide which day we will see what. You are good at that. Just tell me, I'll book the tickets. So that is how it is. So I don't think it has to do with the corporate world. It's just the nature of the person.
Now, the last but the most difficult question which I have planned for you for this podcast is, as a hot author, what do you think? Should an author write or what he or she wants to write, or what he or she believes that will sell in the market and which audience will like?
Okay. So you think it's a difficult question, but it's very easy for me.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I will say what I believe in. Okay. And of course, your opinion may vary from mine. But as an author, uh, the first draft that you write, the first draft, which is raw, which comes out of you, it should be what you want to write. Because at that stage, it's very important for the story to be out. And if you write something which you don't believe in, the draft would not get finished or it won't come out well. You will just do a hurried job. For example, this is my third book, Twisted Tales and Turns. And people who have read all my three books, they say this is my best, which it should be because you evolve. So the latest book should always be the best. But here, when I put the first draft, it was all about it, and it is a mix of genres. Some are paranormal, some are science fiction, some are contemporary, but all the stories are unconventional, and I simply wrote what I wanted to. And that's what I believe. The first draft should come from within you. You should write the first draft yourself, considering yourself as a reader. So it's not what the market will buy, it's you as a reader.
What
What
will
will
you buy?
you buy? Huh. So that's what I have. Certain genres I love to read, so most of my first drafts would be from that genre. Of
So if
course,
you
short
would
stories
like
is
to buy that
experimental
stuff, of
genre.
course, people will also like to buy it, because if you are liking to buy
Not
that,
necessary. I
yeah,
may be in a minority, Vardhan,
yeah,
right? I
minority,
may
but
not be
still,
the majority. Huh. I mean, I am representative of people of my age group, right? So, but the thing is, there are people who don't like reading romance, for example, and I'm
yeah,
still a sucker for romance. So it's not like, but if you talk to any publishers, they would be like fictions don't sell, and romance in India does not sell. It's mostly thriller which sells. Now, of course, they will have data and they have basis to say that, but my thing is, if I love romance, and if when I start writing the first draft, like I don't plan, but there are many who plan, irrespective of whether you're a plotter or you are a spontaneous writer, the first draft should always be what comes from within. You should not think about commercial considerations. Yes, but once the first draft is finished, once you begin the task of polishing, because ultimately you will have to send the book to a publishing house, right?
yeah. If you
Even
don't
if you're
want,
self-publishing it, you want readers to buy it.
yeah,
So, and you will want to reach as many readers as you want to, right? You would not want like a select
yeah,
group of readers to read.
because
So
if you don't want to do that, then why would you publish it also?
exactly. So, that is the stage when these considerations should come your mind. You have got time. See, you have got the foundation. Now you have got the stone. Now it's up to you whether you want to shape that stone into a granite or diamond.
Hmm.
Now, if you want the stone to shape into a diamond, there is a set process, right? You can't deviate from that. So that is what even I tell my friends and those who come to me for advice. Write the first draft for yourself, but when you're polishing it, between the first draft to your 7th, 15th, 100th draft, whatever is it, whatever is your process, all those interim drafts should be considering the market in mind.
But the first draft which you
Otherwise,
like is
huh,
what अंदर से आ रहा है.
yes, that is true. तभी वो आएगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा. Otherwise, you'll end up compromising with the process. This is what I believe. All the books I have written, and I told you, 3 are published, one more is on its way. I have written the manuscript also of the next one. So first draft वही है जो अंदर से आया. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स, आई मीन, जो मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट है जो आ रहा है वो भी मतलब उसका ड्राफ्ट हो गया, इट इज विद द पब्लिशर. जो मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट अभी लिखा है विच विल बी माय फिफ्थ बुक, दैट इज स्टिल इन द फर्स्ट ड्राफ्ट स्टेज. आई हैव कंप्लीटेड द फर्स्ट ड्राफ्ट, आई हैव नॉट गॉन इनटू सब्सिक्वेंट ड्राफ्ट्स. तो अभी उसमें तो बहुत पॉलिशिंग बाकी है. दैट इज व्हेन आई विल स्टार्ट टू सी, अच्छा मैंने तो इस टॉपिक पे लिखा, but now if I want readers to buy it, what is it I should add, what is it I should delete? It is so many words, but typical book length itna hota hai, so I need to edit out something. What should I edit? Maybe I change the genre because I know like thriller is the genre which ultimately sells, तो कहीं तो कुछ thrilling element लाओ if it's missing. So all that, if you want more and more readers to read your book, you have to think like that. नहीं तो फिर आप एक ही book लिख के छोड़ दो. Because nobody will sample your book. The more people sample, the more publishers will come to you, right? That is how it works.
Hmm. So that was wonderful hearing your insights, like especially about this question, because as could say as a creative person, I always think about this dilemma Like, should you do something for yourself or for the other people? But now I get it. If you're publishing in the market, your aim is for others to read it, watch it, listen to it, or do whatever with it. But you want others to be engaged with your content. And until and unless you will provide the hook or something which they would like to engage in, they will never engage with you. So now it all makes sense. As you said, first draft is what you would like to write about. Then after that, multiple drafts is what a commercial aspect at all brings in.
Yes, that is what I believe. I'm sure if you speak to other
Yeah.
authors, everyone has their own views, but that is what I firmly believe, and it is working for me so far. So till it starts,
So that,
till the time it is working, I'll stick with my belief, I think.
so that was great to have you, and very grateful to have you on my podcast. And thank you for sharing your special views, your special life, your drama life, for the like how you came from the corporate world to an author. So it was great having you.
Thank you, Vardhan, for having me here. And must say, it was very refreshing for me. So, you are a youngster in class 11th, you said,
Yeah,
right?
class.
And yeah, so for me, you are a child, a kid, even though I know you will consider yourself as a grown up. So, children, young adults, they're always very innocent, and that's why I found the question so refreshing. And, it was wonderful. It was a new experience. I've been to many podcasts, I've interacted a lot, but it is the first time I'm authoring. I am interacting with a young adult about my writing. So, really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me here.